Welcome to Coding the Future. We're here at CES 2025. With me today is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Ed Loh, head of editorial at MotorTrend Group. Ed, thank you for making the time today.
You're very kind. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Excellent. So we just wrapped up year 3 of the Software Defined Vehicle Innovator Awards.
Yep.
Celebrating the pioneers, the leaders, the experts that are driving the industry to create smarter and more sophisticated cars. How would you characterize the program's evolution over those 3 years? Did it generate the buzz that you thought it would? Does it get brought up in the conversations that you have with people? Any surprise reactions that you've had from the community?
It's a big question. I think it's done well. I think first of all, I have to thank BlackBerry, QNX, you guys, your team, for the support. I mentioned it to the big boss of BlackBerry, John Gimateo, last night at our gala that what's really unique about the relationship and the support from QNX is that it allows MotorTrend, this consumer-facing brand, to really do things we wouldn't normally do in covering automotive so far out in the future, and in an area that's really, it's not quite consumer-facing yet, and it certainly wasn't when we started.
That's right.
And I've been joking about this with other people here. Every time I see SDV used, I go, yes, because 4 years ago when I think the conversations started, we were trying to wrap our heads around like, what is the right term for this? Is it case, connected, autonomous, shared, electric?
Yeah, you don't see much of that anymore.
Or ACEs, right? A version of that, or SDC, which was a software-defined car, but then also somebody said that's self-driving car. And I remember saying, I think it's going to be SDV. Yeah. And there were some jokes like, sounds like a disease you'd talk to your doctor about. And then what exactly are you trying to profile here? And so to actually answer your question, fast forward 3 years, I think it's achieved a lot of what we set out to do, which was, again, to highlight the people, the carbon-based humanoid life forms, not the AI, the humans that are leading the revolution, the sea change. It's definitely assured that software-defined vehicles are a real thing, and the movement, the sea change is real. So highlighting the folks, figuring out who they are, establishing the relationships. I know for us that was important, and it's turned out to be very successful. I think also that was a key goal of QNX, for sure, is to make sure that you're talking to the right people, and also highlighting not just your partners that are doing really well, but others in the industry that are kind of leading the way.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, obviously this year's crop of award winners, some really impressive individuals. Is there anyone that stands out in particular for you that, in terms of the impact that they're having or will have one day on the industry? I mean, I know it's kind of like asking you to choose your favorite child, but who's your favorite child, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
So, I think unique to particular awards gala, I was looking around the room after we announced the winners, and it was really neat to see some of the conversations and the pictures and the selfies that were being taken. Yeah. And the unique one for me was Anders Bell from Volvo, chatting with Wes Morrill from Tesla, and we actually have a shot of them from our event photographer. Those guys like hamming it up, holding their awards. And I ended up talking to Wes afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, I mean, this is great. I worked with Anders, and Wes had also worked with a couple of other folks that were in the room, and I was like, this is great. This is exactly what we were trying to achieve, which is, getting these folks together. And apparently, and they don't, for a lot of reasons, a lot of these engineers who are doing the work, they don't actually come to this event. A lot of it is whatever, analysts, marketing, sales, right? Of course. So for them to get a chance to do this,
to highlight them, to profile them, and celebrate, that's what it's all about.
But they also get to catch up and trade notes and see who's doing what. So I thought, and Anders in particular, I think he was very interested and motivated about. This is actually Matthias, your head of QNX, told me this. He had some great ideas about how we can, further focus on who's leading on software-defined vehicles. Because right now, not every OEM out there is able to do.
It's a mixed bag.
It's a real mixed bag, and it's like who actually can claim that they have an SDV, and it's the fundamental trait seems to be whether you can OTA, right?
Yeah.
And that's and so I was like, it's so to answer your question, Anders, chatting with him was super fun. I thought the two ladies from AWS, Milena and Tala, were, first of all, they're having a great time at our party, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But really awesome to see. One of the things I do at these parties is I know who's a big deal based on the amount of applause that happens in the audience.
Of course.
And with AWS, it's like everybody's
full
clapping.
crew there. Yeah.
Well, they have a lot of people, but then AWS has a lot of partnerships across, so everybody's clapping.
Showing the love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I thought was good.
What about, was there anyone that you had hoped would have applied but ultimately didn't? Or I guess who's missing that you thought, oh, why didn't
I think there's a lot of people missing. What's funny is that this year we had a couple of folks who had won before apply again, which I hadn't thought of that they would do, but it's like, I guess if you're a one-time Oscar winner, you want to be a two-time Oscar winner, right?
For sure.
So kudos to never thinking that way. Of course, our mission is to make the tent bigger.
Yes.
So we're trying not
Broaden it out.
exactly, not to do repeats, unless of course it warrants, especially if in the interim year they've done something amazing, then absolutely, yeah.
For sure, that makes sense. Okay.
But I think definitely, as many OEMs of the major OEM partners, because they're doing a lot of they may not be doing a lot of the hardcore pioneering research. A lot of the smaller companies bring it to them.
Yep.
But they're definitely the folks bringing it all together.
Yeah, bring it together and bring it to market. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they are taking the biggest risks in that regard, because if they don't deliver, then it's a multi-billion-dollar
multi-year.
multi-year risk for them. So, and then I think from the supplier side, I'd love to see, and we mentioned AWS, I'd love to see the guys from the other cloud services company, right?
Sure.
Like why not? It's a big tent.
Azure, Google,
Exactly.
Okay.
And on the chip side, definitely, like I'm a Big Ten kind of guy, and I look at what little I know about the software stack, and I'm like, I think at every level,
there's an opportunity.
there's an opportunity. Like why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And even some of the sensor guys. I mean, last year we had Mobileye. We profiled Aman Shashua. Like these guys are so critical.
Yeah.
Right. And I just talked to some guys doing solid state LiDAR and heard that that's going to be out in production in production vehicles in 2026. And I'm like, I keep hearing that solid state LiDAR is going to be the game changer.
Yeah.
So
okay. We'll send them the submission form.
Exactly.
For year 4,
exactly.
right?
If you're listening, definitely nominate whatever superstar you think is leading the way. And what's really funny is we actually had somebody this year nominate one of our winners. I won't tell you who. And this person didn't actually know the winner personally. They just decided to do it.
So that's a bit of a change.
Which I was like, we hadn't thought of that. It was very bold.
Yeah.
But it worked out. Like, and it was a super great nominee. And we said, this guy definitely is somebody we want to highlight.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, I mean, you talked about how it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the various OEMs and where they are on this journey towards software-defined vehicles and whatnot. And obviously one of the other aspects that we rolled out as part of this partnership this year was coding the car too.
Yep.
And your travels in China to document how innovative the industry is over there. Obviously, there's been a lot of saber rattling as of late. It's keeping more than a few OEMs up at night in terms of how fast they're moving and whatnot. How do you see this all playing out, and what do you think Western OEMs can learn from their Chinese counterparts when it comes to the development of SDVs?
Okay, so those two questions are two separate podcasts. So we can talk. We can talk.
How deep do you want to go? Right.
So I came by yesterday and chatted with Matthias a little bit about it, and for me walking around here at CES, first of all, I feel really stupid. Because everybody around me is like an engineer and they're deep, and I look at the booth and I'm like, I don't know.
Where do you start?
I don't even know what you're showing here.
Yeah.
And then I look at all the languages. I listen and hear all the languages and hear. I mean, everybody around the world is doing something in this space, and it all looks like incredible. But specifically with regard to China and the U.S., right?
Yeah.
America's definitely done some saber rattling with the CHIPS Act. They're talking about how, fundamentally we don't want, per the Biden administration, no Chinese or Russian software
Yeah.
in automotive or other critical infrastructure in 2026, and then no hardware by 2027.
Yeah.
Which, quite frankly, is insane given how much Chinese technology is in everything we have.
Right.
And then China's doing the same thing, right? Like they're trying to pull back
Tit for tat.
tit for tat.
Yeah.
And actually, because I've been working with some Chinese colleagues, it's the key learning is how deep it goes. It's not just the stuff you think about for the car.
Yeah.
They're trying to get us to use their version of like Microsoft Office, because it's down to like, oh no, I'm sorry, we can't use your Google Cloud, your Google Drive link. Can you go over and download this or upload the PDF into this? And I was just like,
Don't make things easy.
yeah, and the where I think this is heading is actually an idea I had about 18 months ago, and I was talking about it with one of these Chinese companies, which is, I wonder whether we're headed for a future where it's like Chinese EVs for the China market and the China-friendly, region.
Yep.
And then it's America and European, Western hemisphere
Duopoly type thing.
Yeah, and does it end up being like NIO, XPeng, BYD, Li Auto for China only, and then it's like Tesla, Rivian, Lucid for GM, and that's it. It's
Never the two shall meet.
exactly,
Right?
and then your feature sets.
Slightly different to cater to the market.
Exactly. And it's funny because the movie I go back to all the time is Pacific Rim. I don't know if you ever saw that.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's this giant robot movie. It was successful enough they had two of them, but where the robot, like the American robot, looks like Captain America's got a shield, and then the Chinese robot's got like 3 arms, looks like a dragon, and they're fighting some alien like giant monsters. But it's like each marketplace maybe comes up with its own vehicle, own SDV platform, and it and the entire stack down to the chips is made in China.
Built and made in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then in America, it's the software is all American and the chips are Taiwanese.
Yeah.
So, until China invades Taiwan.
For now.
Sorry, for now.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of where my head is at. And to put a point on that, I mentioned that to a Chinese colleague of mine.
Yeah.
And she came back actually like a month ago and said, that idea you had about 18 months ago. It's kind of looking like that might have
10 years down the road,
right.
This is where we're going to be at.
Might be
Right?
where
We
we're
heard
at.
it here first.
Yeah. So maybe. I mean, who knows what the new administration's going to do?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs, unknowns.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out.
Exactly.
Right?
And then in terms of key learnings for like American car companies, I don't know. It's so I really feel for, first of all, our American brands, our home base, our Ford and GM in particular.
Yeah.
Because the struggle for them is they can't just throw all of it in for BEVs, battery electric vehicles, right? They have to walk the line with internal combustion, plug-in hybrid, now e-revs, right?
Yeah.
And there's risk across all of these, and you're dealing with an administration that might pull back
Stop starts.
everything.
Yeah.
And on the Chinese side,
That ship has sailed.
Xi Jinping's like, hey man, this is the plan for the next 30 years.
Exactly. Get on the bus.
Get on the bus.
The only bus that's going.
Here's all the incentives. Here's what we're going to do to make sure everybody adopts, chargers and all that.
They follow suit.
Yeah. And it's a rock steady long-term plan. And meanwhile, our brands are trying to sell around the world with this array of products they have to create in a
No
changing
small
market.
task.
Yeah. So
What's the reception been like to the film?
it's been good.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting to see. I think definitely the word is out on what Chinese manufacturers are bringing to the table.
Sure. Yeah.
And the comments have that kind of there's probably 3 types of comments. One is like, "Where's my roadkill? Where's the hot rod content? I'm like, what am I watching this thing for?" So we move.
You're never going to get away from that.
Right, move those aside.
Yeah.
And then the second ones are, all this stuff is junk and Chinese, made in China is crap or it's copycat.
People who haven't driven a vehicle.
People haven't driven
haven't
vehicles.
experienced.
People have probably like a 10 to 15-year idea of what's actually going on.
Uh-huh.
And then you have the folks who are like more than that say, "Hey man, what did you write this comment on? I bet it was made in China." If it's a laptop or a mobile phone, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check what's in your refrigerator, your microwave,
Yeah.
and then all the components now that are coming into your car,
Yeah.
like a lot of these chips, like you have no idea.
Yeah. So that silences the haters, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it creates more
Discussion.
more discussion.
Yeah.
Is it positive discussion? Wait, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Is there, just pivoting, I guess, is there a topic that you think got far less attention in 2024 than it should have, and that will change in the year ahead? Something that maybe we've just scratched the surface on that you think is going to gather pace over the next year or so that you're watching with interest?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key narrative for 2024 has been, EVs are down, sales are
was good.
off, and this and
Q4
that.
was good.
And it's right, and that's the incorrect narrative. The actual narrative is no. The rate of sales growth
Yes.
has tapered a little bit, but overall, we are
Still
ending
growing.
2024 having sold more
Right.
EVs, more battery electric vehicles in the U.S. than we did in 2023.
Yeah.
And we're rapidly approaching double-digit percentage of new vehicles sold in the U.S. as EVs,
Yeah.
and this pace is going to continue. And this emerging narrative that is very interesting is that apparently we have to walk through the valley of EREVs, of extended range electric vehicles,
Right.
on the way to full electrification. So it's been a fascinating conversation, and one that actually started back in September, August. I chatted with Ford CEO Jim Farley,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Oh man, we know, Stellantis is going to come out with a Ram Charger EREV pickup truck. Ours is going to beat it, And you watch this space, Ed. EREVs are the future." And I was like, "What is it? EREV? Like that's like Volt. That's like Chevy,
Yeah.
like Volt technology."
Back to the future.
Yeah. Why is he talking about it? And then next thing you know, like Scout
Yeah, that's right.
announced. Everybody knew Scout was going to build a truck and an SUV battery electric, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing EREVs." I was like, "What? You too?" And then Hyundai dropped it during their LA Auto Show, Ioniq
Yeah.
Ioniq 9 reveal, which is it's fine. Like EREV is another version of a plug-in hybrid. Apparently, that's what we need to get there for large trucks and SUVs, and it'll be great, I think. And then, but ultimately, as we say on our Inevitable podcast, it's inevitable. Like it's all going to be
coming.
EVs.
It's just it's how long,
Yes,
not if,
exactly.
but when, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Last question. You've been in this industry for a long time. If you could give your younger self a piece of advice as you're starting out, what would it be and why?
Oh man.
Anything come to mind?
Yeah. Learn Chinese.
Yeah, I think everyone has that
Yes.
piece
I
of
had
advice,
an
right?
opportunity like 20 years ago. I was like,
Okay.
I should probably do something in China.
Yeah.
Probably, that I would. Buy as much NVIDIA stock as
another
you
good
can,
one,
as you
yeah.
can at Tesla. No, probably pay close. To be honest, I think I definitely slept on NVIDIA because I'm not a gamer. Like I think everybody in gaming knows, like, oh yeah, man, NVIDIA's
Yeah.
these graphics cards are like
Yep.
the bomb.
Yeah.
And it was weird because I sat on the NVIDIA keynote and Jensen Huang gets up there and he shows the first game to use the NVIDIA GeForce. It was like Sega Virtual Fighter.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, I was like, I
I was a huge fan, but little did I know.
Yeah, I played that game, and now they're talking about how this thing that started just to move
Amazing.
pixels around
Yeah.
is now powering, not just. It's funny for them. Cars are actually a very small market.
business.
Yeah, it's a tiny line of business for them because it's like we only sell 15 million cars in the U.S.
Yeah.
and each of them may have one or two drive-oriented chips, and they're not the highest. You don't need the highest performance.
Yeah.
All that stuff is going to go into some data center
Right.
to power AI, to power the cloud, and just I think to tell my younger self and anybody who's listening who is getting started or has kids, like get in the weeds on some of this stuff.
Yeah, you never know how it's going to turn out, pan out, right? So
like there's a lot going. Just you walk this show, and you're just like,
Definitely.
I was looking at the guys at some of these construction companies, and they're doing automated, remote operated excavators, like a lunar excavator. I was like, yeah. So this is the software defined. It's not just applied to vehicles.
Definitely.
It's everything you guys touch, right? Healthcare, vehicles, logistics, robotics.
Yeah.
You name it.
Good stuff. I think that's a great place to end. Ed, always a pleasure. Thank you for making time for us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Okay, thanks.